Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be how I created this generic exhaust manifold. It's not based on really any kind of car or anything, but it gives an example and a playground to which you can work to create a similar manifold. I tried to do all of it in part design. I wasn't completely successful, but I was happy with the results. I apologize for this rotating thing. I want to see if I can get one of those thumbnails that are animated and actually look good. So you'll have to bear with me on that. But so let me stop that now because I think it's like 20 seconds. So I do have to play the thumbnail game a little bit. But let me talk about a brief background of this. Let me get my combo view back now that I'm not doing oops. Yay, there we go. So the first time I tried this was I did a tutorial in Onshape, and this is a screenshot of the result. And the methodology was completely different than what I used for FreeCAD. I tried to use the same methodology in FreeCAD, and I was just unhappy with that effort because it wasn't self-explanatory, and there's things you had to innately know. And let me show you the result from FreeCAD. So this was the result before I gave up. But you can see it came out pretty good. And I have to say, I think the FreeCAD one looks prettier, even though I have more lines and didn't finish. But at any rate, let me close my model and open this version so I can show you how they did that, or how I approached that in FreeCAD, so you know what I was up against, or just the different approaches that you can take. So let me open that. So here's the model in FreeCAD, and let me start hiding some things, and I can show you exactly what it was we worked on. So basically, this was the single object that got cloned. Let me see if I can get. So let's get rid of that. See if I can find it. It wasn't the port plate. It wasn't the tailpipe. I think it was this. Yeah. Okay. So let's get rid of the clone, and let's go in and look at how this got made. So it consists of two sketches. So you can see one there, and let's hide the additive pipe. So you can see those two sketches that created a profile that we could trace. So in order to, at first, unless you've done this before, in which case it's obvious to you, it wasn't simple to understand. So, and I think this was, I'm not a professional CAD user, so. Professional CAD users could probably give you the advantages of this methodology. I cannot. So what you had to do is I created two extrudes, I used that methodology and created two extrudes, and you get the intersection of those two extrudes, which is this line here. Now the best way I found in FreeCAD to do that was with something called slice. So this is all in the part design workbench, or part workbench, I'm sorry. So what the slice ends up giving you, let me hide everything else, is, these are separate faces basically. So I could break these down. I could go in the draft workbench and downgrade these to separate pieces, but for this purpose I didn't need to. We just needed this line. So this line follows the path of the exhaust pipe, but it follows it through two planes. So the result is a more complex shape than you'd be able to do with just these two sketches. Although I think you could just do this sketch and this sketch, right? Yeah, at any rate. Yeah, I think you could. So I think that's the hard way. But I was just following their tutorial. So then you take that slice and you do the additive pipe. And when you add the pipe, you select those edges as the path. So that's how I got the pipe. And then I was having trouble at the time getting it to hollow out, so I didn't do that. So hollowing it out or making this edge thickness, thick solid. So I was able to figure out the thick solid for the new one. So let me move on to the new one, and I'll close this, and I'll show you how I did the new one. So the difficult for this are these pipes here and joining them, especially joining all four of them. And so that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to go through the flanges unless if somebody specifically asks, I could do an addendum video or something. But let's look at how to create those. So I'm going to walk through creating these two. Now in this particular model, I created all four separately, but in the one we'll do for the video, I'm going to use the part workbench mirror to create these, and I'll tell you why when we get to that. So let's close this and create a new model. So we create a whole new model, and we're going to do in part design workbench. We're going to add a body and a sketch. I'm going to create the sketch on the XY plane for no particular reason other than it seems comfortable to me. And we're going to start out with a Bezier curve. And we're just going to make an approximation of the shape, but I am going to constrain it to the two axes. You see the constraint indicator. I'm going to use three semi-horizontal, but they're not going to stay that way. I'm going to constrain that one, and I'm going to constrain that one. And I'll try to explain that. I'll try to remember to explain that later on. When we get to that, there's a reason we want these two constrained. Actually, I have to explain it now, so I will. So what I want to do is I'm going to also make these vertical to each other, and that's so when we do the pipe, this line ends up 90 degrees to the axes, and that's important in getting a good result in the end. For reasons I don't know. It's just black magic, and it works. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a controlling line, and this is to control the middle angle of this. Now, I think there's other ways to do this, but this is what I could get to work. This is what I could get to work in part design. I was able to get different. I was able to get the Bezier curve to behave differently in the draft workbench, but I couldn't replicate that in part design. Well, I could, but it was difficult. You could copy that. You could migrate the draft Bezier curve to part design, and you'd get the same pitch of the line, but didn't want to do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these symmetric, and I did that by selecting the end points first and then the middle points, and that's important, otherwise this tool doesn't work. So now they're symmetric and I can control it. So this is going to get us a very predictable pipe. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the dimensions for this, and I'm going to set them to, we're going to set it to 8 inches, just because. So that's going to be the half the width of our manifold, and we're going to set it to 8 inches high, because that's going to be the full height. And then I'm going to set the midpoint of this pipe to be 4 inches. And again, it just because it looked good. Now, if I left the pipe like this, it would end up being like a really tight bend here that would I think most auto workers wouldn't like. I don't know. But so what I found was nice. I just said, and again, this is just for appearances. I don't really know anything about how to manufacture exhaust manifold. So I just did that at 22.5, and then I'm going to do a second one at 45. So that's our first one. I believe that's done. Yep, I think so. I think I did everything there. We'll close that, and I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to copy it so I have the second one. Control C, Control V. Oh, let me get my keyboard thing going. Let me pause, and I'll get that going. I always forget to do that. I'm sorry. So now we have our two pipes. So we got to modify this one, so it's the inner pipe. So the two things I'm going to do is I'm going to make it shorter at the center, and then I'm going to make it 4 inches from the center of the manifold. So this basically is the center line of the manifold, and that's actually useful if you do stuff that way. It just things flow much better if you have just a common origin. So now I'm going to make this at 45 degrees, and that's just because it just get up. Let's see, why didn't it? Let's delete this constraint. So I had a conflicting constraint. Oh, because I tried to add another one. We just need to change this. Okay. So those are my paths. Those are what I'm going to use to define where the pipe goes. Now I'm going to add profiles. Oops, let's bring it back into view. Where's our magnifier? I don't have, normally I have an add-on called, that remembers the position of these toolbars. I can't remember the name of it, but I don't have that, so these move around. Okay, so now we're going to add the paths. So I'll stay in this body here, and we'll add a sketch. And we're going to add this to the XZ plane. And what I'm going to do is, for this simple fixture, we can use external constraints because not much is going to change once we're done. In more complex ones where the faces change and the vertexes change, don't use external attachments because or links, because they get really messy. I mean, you can, but you have to become adept at fixing them when they break, which is doable. And maybe I should do a video on that. I've learned how to do that over the time I've been using FreeCAD. So there's our path, and let's add a path to this one while we're at it. We'll do the same thing, do similar things together. So again, on the XZ, and I'm going to create an external constraint on this guy. Oh, wrong one, sorry. External constraint. Okay. So when you're doing an external constraint, it'll show this line. It'll show an indicator. I think that's purple, but that it worked. If you don't get that, your external constraint is not working for some reason, and you should check your report view, which I don't have turned on right now. Sorry, I just coughed there, and it hurt. All right, so now we'll set this to 1 inch as well. And we could actually tie these two together, but since there's only tie these two measurements together, but since there's only 2 of them, I'm not going to bother. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sweep this sketch number 2, which is our profile. Let's rename that for just learning for educational purposes. And this is going to be our path, so we'll call that path. What I probably should have done is I should have created all it, renamed it, and then copied it over. And then I would have only had to reposition. So if I select the profile first and then the path, and now I add an edge, and that's going to be my path, if I can get it. And you see there we've got our pipe. Oops, except that I'm not in the active body, so let's try that again. So you have to be in the active body or else it's going to try to do stuff like that. So now that I created this body as active, let's do it again. And add the edge. And there we go. So now we'll do this one again. Well, now we'll do this one. Make the body active by double clicking it. And so now we'll do this one. Make the body active by double clicking it. Already was in my case. I'm going to select this sketch here. All right, that's the profile again, and we'll sweep that along this path. And so we have our 2 pipes done. Now let's go back and we'll add, we'll hollow them out. So let's select this body as active, and I'm going to select additive pipe. Now to add the thickness, make a thick solid. So this is already considered a solid. So to make it thick, I'm going to select a face that I don't know a naming convention for why I select that face, but you have to select the face that is going to maybe cut through the object. I don't know. So if you select this face, it won't work. So let's do that, and it should create the solid there. And I'm going to make this 1/16 because here in the U.S. that's a standard gauge for a pipe. Although this would end up being cast, so maybe that doesn't make sense. But then we're going to pick mode because we want it to be a pipe, so that this is actually a wall with 2 sides. If it's just a skin, if it's considered a skin, it won't work in the next step. And we have to change the join type to intersection because again, if you keep it arc, when we try to join these, it won't work. So. And maybe I'll try to show you why, but let's see if there's time. So one thing that you'll notice didn't happen is it didn't hollow out this end. And we can remedy that by going back into thickness and add a face. Try to show you all the different ways to get this done. And click OK. And that should hollow that out. And it did, but you can't see it because this overlaps. Okay. So now instead of doing it that way, what we can do is we can pick the additive pipe and we can pick both faces using the control key. And now when I click it, it'll add both of those, I think. Oh, I have to make the body active. Always forget that. And you see how it hollowed out both of them. But we're not done yet, because you can see that if we go down into this pipe, it's not, these aren't, there's not a common opening. It's just the one pipe and it intersects this one. So the next thing, let me click OK to that. So the next thing we're going to do is where is it? Oh yeah, we got to go to the part design. But before, let me change those two settings I told you about. So this needs to be pipe and this needs to be intersection. That's really important, otherwise this next step won't work. All right, so now I'm going to select both of these and we're going to go into the part workbench. So this is the only bit that is not, so my guess is they just haven't migrated this to part design, or don't need to or something, I don't know. So it's join walled objects, and that's why we need to select pipe, because that makes it a walled object. And I just made a liar out of myself. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to try selecting them in the opposite order here. So I selected this one, then this one. Let's try that now. And this probably is the reason why this isn't migrated yet, is because I get different results just about every time. So this time I got this weird artifact here. Look at that. So I don't know what I did. As far as I understand, I did the exact same steps as I did previously. And I'll try to troubleshoot why I'm getting that weird artifact. Previously, I was getting weird artifact if these two ends weren't exactly intersected. So this is close to the previous result I got, but not exactly the same. So let me try to troubleshoot that, and I'll come back to see if I have an answer. Okay, I'm pretty sure I found the answer. I left this as arc, even though I tried to change it. So let's try to change that back to intersection. And now let's try that. Try it again. So I'm going to do this on camera and see if I was right. Although I'm seeing like some overlap there. Yeah, that was it. So it had to be intersection. So let's go back and change these both to arc, so you can see what, hopefully see what the difference is and why it matters. To do that, I need to delete the connect first. Oh, yeah. So I'm guessing the arc refers to just the arc of the intersection. I'm not sure. You know, so where the arc of the two intersect, that's how it tries to join. And I guess for a shape like this, it results in something super weird. So, and to be honest, you know, that tool is black magic to me, because man, I can't even imagine the math involved there. So let's try to get it back, and then we'll move forward. But that's the hard part there. Let me delete that connection and we'll do it again. So I should have these both as pipe and intersection, and pipe and oops, and let's change this back to intersection. So now I should be good. So now let's take these two thicknesses. It shouldn't matter what order I pick, and we'll intersect them. Which I just think this tool is super awesome. I just wish it was not as hard to use for, you know, mere mortals like me and some of my viewers. All right, so let's now let's mirror this sucker and intersect those two. So to mirror this, we're gonna stay in the part workbench. Now you could also do this in draft, but I'm not gonna do that to you because it's a harder mirror to use. But we can just select connect and hit mirror, and we're gonna be doing it on the YZ plane, I think. And we should get our second part in just a few seconds. Oh, there we go. I was about to pause. So there, you see we get a really nice, nicely lined, nicely arranged manifold pipe. And the only part left is to join those two, because you can kind of see how that pipe runs through there. They're not actually joined, and see there, it's blocked that way. So to get a fully rendered model, we need to join those suckers. So we're going to join the mirror and the connect. And yes, you can actually do this. Now this on my PC takes quite some time, and it's not that old of a PC, so this is some pretty intensive stuff. So I'm just going to click this, and I'm going to pause the video, and I'll be back when it's done. Okay, so it all finished up, and it actually went a little faster than it has in the past. So let me hide these bodies so we don't get that weird double thing. What else can I hide? Those are already hidden. So sometimes, I don't know why it does that. Sometimes it's because you have multiple, you know, up there. Nope, those aren't showing. Yeah, so I don't know why it's doing that in that regard. That's the connect. That's connect. So sometimes it has these like, sorry, hidden faces because there's two objects showing, but that's not the case here. So I'm pretty happy with that result. So this was a little different. This artifact here I didn't get previously, but I'm not going to worry about that. And the thing that I'm happy about is this is a fully walled object. You can see it has thickness here, and then this wall, it's going to be hard to see, actually comes to that corner. Whereas before I was just getting a single face at the end here. So that's pretty much it. That's how you can create the manifold. I am going to do a little bonus thing. I'm going to show you how you can make these really pretty. So let's to make these pretty, let's do. I think I can just do it with this. Let's do a refine first. So we'll set that to true, and then let's go over to view, and it'll probably take like a half hour to refine that, but I'll pause. Okay, I'm starting to get all over the place, and I'm sorry about that, but after I paused, I realized why this was a little messed up than in my original one, and it was because I had set this to a different thickness than this pipe, so it didn't come out as clean. It still has a line in there that don't know where it comes from, but I'm not going to worry about that. So let's, in our final thing here, let's look at this connect, and we're just going to go into view. So this is just to clean it up a little bit and make it look pretty. So this will add a lot of processing time to it. So only do this if, like, so I do this for the screenshot so it looks nice. But that's the only reason. So I changed that deviation to 0.01. I don't have, that's just a value I came up through experimentation. And for some reason it takes forever to put the 1 in. I've already typed it. And you see how it, really cleans up the image. So that's how much, I really don't even know how to tell you, to be honest. And then I'm going to change the point size to 1 and the line width to 1. And you see I have like a sort of a much cleaner looking model. And then the final thing I'm going to do to this is we're going to go into part design. And the reason each workbench has their own set of drop downs or context menus, I'm sorry. And that's appearance here. Now, you might be able to get it through Control D elsewhere, but I always forget that. So I'm going to select appearance, and oops, for some reason it came up over off screen, so let's bring it over. So we're going to do appearance, and I'm going to pick a material, and we're going to pick chrome, and that's it. So now you can see we got a fairly nicely rendered model, which just adds to the whole experience. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you experiment with, this is mostly about this thickness tool. And I hope you have some fun time FreeCADing, and thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and I'll see you next time. So one last thing I wanted to add is I was talking about these phantom faces before, and I remembered basically that's a result of the thickness of the wall, and I think what happens is it's the interior face at certain points overlaps the exterior face for some reason, and you can get rid of that if it matters to you. You can get rid of that through increasing this thickness. So if I go into thickness here and here and change it to instead of 1/16 we do it 1/8, that should get rid of all of those the interior faces protruding through. So let me change that on both of them. So 1/8 is 0.125 inches, and let me let that recalculate, and let's see if I'm a liar or not. So sometimes to force a recalculation, I go into a tool and just activate I just go in and exit the tool, which activates a full recalculation. That's like whether it's a sketch or whatever. That's has been for me the best way to get a forced full recalculation. There's probably better ways. I tried to do a macro at one point. It was unreliable, but let's wait for this to finish calculating, and we'll see if I'm right. Yeah, so you can see some of the changes it made. The intersections are a little different, and now I don't have any of those funky faces. So when you get those, it's sort of phantom faces. It's the interior face is because of the various calculations to make the bends and whatnot, is protruding through the exterior face. And if you were 3D printing this, they would make it non-manifold. So now I'm really done, and I hope you have a great day.